The cafe had rules: no cameras, no noise, and definitely no poor people. But every morning at 6:15, a young waiter named Marcus served the same old woman in the same corner booth. No phone, no entourage, just tea, toast, and a quiet smile. Until one morning, 4 bodyguards walked in before her lawyers did. And the look on Marcus's face said he knew something was about to explode. The alarm clock screamed at 4:45 a.m., and Marcus Kennedy's hand shot out like a sniper. One slap. Silence. He lay still for a moment, listening to the radiator hiss and the city breathe outside. Another day. Another dollar. Another morning serving people who thought money made them interesting. Welcome back, my beautiful family and friends. If you're ready to dive into today's story, make sure you hit subscribe and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Because tomorrow, I'll be dropping another story just as powerful, and trust me, you don't want to miss it. Now sit back, relax, and let's begin. Marcus got up from his bed. Cold floor, cracked mirror, small apartment. Everything paid for with his own hands. No favors, no calls to Aunt Cheryl for help. Pride was expensive, but Marcus paid in full. Shower, shave, moisturizer. His mother's voice still echoed in his head. Ashy skin is a choice, baby. White shirt pressed crisp, black slacks sharp, shoes polished like mirrors. At Cafe Aurelius, presentation wasn't optional, it was armor. By 5:30, he was walking to the bus stop. The streets glowed orange under misty lamps. Somewhere, a dog barked like it had no bills to pay. The bus rolled up late. It always did. Driven by Gladys, who'd been driving this route longer than Marcus had been alive. Morning, baby. Off to feed the rich again? Every day, Miss Gladys. You better than me. I'd spit in their coffee. That's why you drive the bus and I carry the tray. Wisdom, she said, laughing. The city changed with each stop, from chipped porches and corner stores to spotless streets and mansions with names. Then, Avalon Hills, where money didn't just talk, it whispered, smugly. Cafe Aurelius sat on the corner like a temple, all marble, glass, and greenery, glowing as if it refused to participate in daylight. You didn't find this place online. You either inherited the address or were rich enough to be invited. Marcus, the only one who arrived by bus, slipped through the back entrance right on time. The smell of roasted coffee and baked bread hit him like a hymn. Chef Henry was already shouting in French-accented chaos, "Kennedy, you are late." "I'm exactly on time, chef. In Paris, on time is late. And in Paris, y'all smoke for breakfast." Slander. Henri clutched his chest dramatically as the staff laughed. Marcus tied his black apron, checked his reflection, and joined the morning briefing. Mr. Laurent, the maitre d', stood at the front, a man who spoke like every word cost money. "VIPs today," Laurent said. "The Hendersons at table 12. Senator Michaels at 9. Do not mention politics or scandal. And table 9? He paused. "Mrs. Williams, she arrives at 7:02 precisely. Marcus, she is yours." Everyone knew about table 9, the mysterious old woman who came every morning, ordered toast and tea, and tipped like royalty. Some said she was lonely, others said she was crazy. Marcus just thought she was kind. At exactly 7:02, the glass doors opened. Dorothy Williams entered, 80-something, moving carefully but with pride. Her coat was brown wool, her maroon hat tilted playfully, her cane carved like a raven's head with dark stones for eyes. "Good morning, Mrs. Williams," Laurent said, gliding toward her. "It better be," she replied dryly. "I've been coming 6 months. If my table isn't ready, I'd suspect brain damage." Marcus hid his smile as she took her corner seat. Quiet, away from the eyes that measured everyone's worth by who noticed them. He approached. "Morning, Dorothy." Her expression softened instantly. "Marcus, my favorite person under 70. Can't complain," he said. "They don't pay me enough to complain creatively." She laughed, warm and unguarded. "Sit a moment. I shouldn't—" "Nonsense." He sat. Dorothy had that effect. Like rules bent themselves around her. "You look tired," she said, studying him. "Just the usual. Early mornings, low pay, existential dread." "Ah, youth." She sipped her tea. "How's your sister? Still aiming for Harvard?" "She is. Pretend she's not terrified. Fear is useful. The fearless make the worst decisions. Dorothy smiled faintly. Tell her I said that. And tell her Proust is overrated. He laughed. She always remembered details, always asked, never patronized. Around her, he didn't feel invisible. I've got a story for you, she said suddenly, pulling a small notebook from her purse. Marrakesh, 1973. A stolen motorbike and a magistrate who collected butterflies. Marcus listened, entranced. Whether her tales were real or embroidered, he didn't care. The way she told them made the world feel bigger. When she finished, he said, So you charmed a judge with butterfly trivia? I identified 3 species he didn't even know he had, she said, eyes twinkling. Never underestimate the power of useless knowledge. He stood reluctantly. Better get back before Laurent faints. Go serve the prophets, she teased. Same time tomorrow? Wouldn't miss it. Marcus returned to work lighter, unaware that half the room was watching Dorothy. Or that a black sedan had been parked across the street for a week, its windows too dark to see through. He didn't notice Laurent's wary glances or the whispers about the old woman and the waiter. He didn't realize Dorothy's stories were becoming more specific, more urgent, as if she was hiding a message inside them. He only knew that for 15 minutes every morning, his world felt human. And that morning, as sunlight poured through the glass and hit table 9, Marcus Kennedy didn't know it yet. But the woman with the raven cane was about to change his life forever. The whispers began on a Wednesday. Marcus noticed them the way you notice a coming storm, subtle at first, then impossible to ignore. He was refilling a water glass when Mrs. Vanderbilt leaned toward her friend, pearls glinting under the cafe lights. I'm telling you, Margaret, something's not right about that woman, she hissed. She comes here every morning, sits in the corner, and talks to the help like they're equals. Maybe she's lonely, Margaret replied carefully. Lonely people get cats. They don't tip hundreds for toast. Marcus kept his face neutral, but his stomach turned. Rich people always assumed the staff were deaf furniture. As he walked past table 9, Dorothy sat in her usual spot. Book open, posture calm, a soft smile at nothing in particular. The picture of serenity. If she heard the whispers, she didn't show it. By the time lunch prep started, even the staff were talking. Janine caught Marcus by the counter. You're close with her, right? She asked. I serve her breakfast, not her secrets. Laurent asked me what you two talk about. He's nervous. She tells stories, Marcus said flatly. She's kind, that's all. Janine lowered her voice. Just be careful. People like her don't do anything without a reason. If she's rich and she's singling you out, it's never random. Marcus wanted to argue, but doubt slipped in anyway. He didn't really know Dorothy, just the stories she told, the way she remembered small things about his life. Still, when she looked up and smiled at him from across the room, the worry melted. He brought her tea and toast. How's the book? He asked. Pretentious, she said without looking up. The author thinks big words equal depth. But I like the plot. Marcus laughed, but she studied him closely. You're troubled. You hide it well, but not from me. Just gossip. People don't get why you talk to me. Ah, she said softly. The great sin of conversation across class lines. They think you're eccentric? Dorothy smiled. They're not wrong. But let me tell you a truth, Marcus. I've been rich long enough to know that kindness without agenda confuses people. They can't see humanity past hierarchy. He hesitated. So why me? Because you asked how I wanted my toast cut, she said simply. Everyone else assumes. You asked. He blinked. That's it? That's everything? You treated me like a person when I'd almost forgotten how that felt. Her eyes softened. After my husband died, I realized I had 1,000 acquaintances and no friends. My family only calls when they need something signed, so I started coming here, to feel invisible among people who don't know my name. She paused. Then you came along, and you looked me in the eye. You listened. You cared. That's rare, Marcus. Rarer than money. He didn't know what to say. You're a good man, she added. Don't let this place train that out of you. Before Marcus could respond, Mr. Laurent's voice cut through the hum of the cafe. Mr. Kennedy, my office, now. Dorothy gave him a knowing look. Go, be diplomatic. He's about to tell you something unpleasant. Laurent's office was cold and immaculate, the walls lined with motivational posters that somehow felt like threats. He folded his hands like a disappointed headmaster. Marcus, you've been a model employee, punctual, professional, discreet. Thank you, sir. However, Laurent said, leaning forward, your closeness with Mrs. Williams is creating problems. The clients are talking. She's polite. I'm polite back. You sit with her. You laugh with her. That is not our policy. We serve. We don't socialize. She insists I sit. Then you refuse. We cannot afford rumors. Her behavior is already unusual. She's not in our registry. She pays in cash. She keeps no driver or assistant. We know nothing about her. You think she's dangerous? Laurent's tone sharpened. I think perception is reality. People believe something odd is happening. If that perception hurts our reputation, it becomes a problem. Do I make myself clear? Crystal. Marcus swallowed the anger. Yes, sir. Good. Maintain professional distance. No more personal interaction. Marcus nodded and left. The words clung to him like grease. He moved through the rest of his shift in silence, refilling cups, delivering plates, pretending he didn't care. When the day ended, Chef Henri stopped him by the door. Laurent scolded you, yes? Something like that. Henri snorted. Ignore him. The man's soul is made of starch. You did nothing wrong. That woman, Mrs. Williams, she's real. Everyone else here is playing a part. Marcus smiled faintly. Thanks, Chef. Good men don't need thanks. They need sleep. Go. That night, Marcus ate leftover noodles in his apartment and stared at the flickering light through his window. Dorothy's words replayed in his head. Thousands of acquaintances, no friends. His phone buzzed. A text from Kendra. Guess who just hit 1480 on her practice S8? He grinned, calling immediately. Harvard better make space. You're ridiculous, she laughed. You working too much? Always. Thanks for it, though. You're why I can even think about college. Marcus smiled. That's the plan, kid. After she hung up, he sat quietly, realizing how much of his life was spent surviving, not living. Maybe Dorothy saw that. Maybe that's why she'd chosen him. The next morning, the black sedan was still parked across the street. Inside the cafe, the usual rhythm carried on. Marcus took his station, avoiding Laurent's stare. At 7:02, Dorothy walked in. Slower today, her hand trembling slightly on the raven cane. You okay? Marcus asked softly. She smiled weakly. Didn't sleep much. Death and insomnia are old friends. The usual? Please. When he brought her tea and toast, she didn't touch it right away. Sit with me, she whispered. Marcus hesitated, then obeyed. Do you believe people can feel when their time is running out? She asked. He frowned. Don't talk like that. I'm old, Marcus, and sick. I've been hiding it for a while. She smiled sadly. My family knows. They're thrilled. Thrilled? They're circling like vultures. Lawyers, accountants, cousins I haven't seen in years, all concerned about my well-being. They want me declared incompetent before I can mismanage the estate. Marcus blinked. Estate? She looked him dead in the eye. I'm worth $7.3 billion. He froze. My husband built an empire, real estate, tech, manufacturing. It all came to me when he died. Now they want it back. They think I've lost my mind because I eat toast with someone who doesn't own a yacht. She reached across the table and took his hand. You're the only person I trust, Marcus, which means you're about to be dragged into something much bigger than you want. Before he could respond, the cafe door opened. 4 men in black suits entered, moving with military precision. Behind them came 2 lawyers with faces like polished stone. Every fork paused midair. Mrs. Williams, one of them said. It's time. Dorothy's eyes hardened. Tell Charles he's a coward for sending you. This isn't personal, the man said. The family is concerned. Your daily visits here, your association with this staff member. Marcus stood. Watch your tone. The lawyer ignored him. We're initiating a competency hearing. You'll appear before a judge in 30 days. Until then, please refrain from financial decisions that may. Oh, shut up, Richard, Dorothy snapped. You think because I talk to people beneath your pay grade, I've lost my mind? Sit down and try a slice of brioche. It might humanize you. He stiffened. Mrs. Williams? You tell Charles, she interrupted, that if he wants my signature, he can come ask for it himself. And next time, leave the bodyguards at home. I'm 87, not Jason Bourne. The room went dead silent. Dorothy turned to Marcus. How do you feel about testifying, dear? You've seen me think, reason, remember? You could tell a judge I'm not crazy. Richard scoffed. A waiter's opinion means nothing in court. Dorothy's voice cut sharp. That waiter treats me with more dignity than my entire bloodline combined. His testimony will matter. Then she stood, lifted her cane, and said clearly enough for every diner to hear. You all want to know who I am? Fine. I'm Dorothy Williams. I own half this city. And yes, I come here because the toast is good and the company better. If that makes me incompetent, then sanity is overrated. For a moment, no one moved. Then Chef Henri began to clap. Others followed. The applause rolled through the cafe like a wave. Richard flushed. This changes nothing. The hearing stands. He turned and left, the bodyguards close behind. Dorothy exhaled shakily and sat back down. Marcus crouched beside her. You just declared war on your family. She smiled faintly. War was declared months ago. Today, I just went public. Her hand trembled slightly as she reached for her tea. I meant what I said, Marcus. I need you to testify. To tell them I'm of sound mind. Marcus hesitated. He should have walked away. But looking at her, frail, stubborn, unafraid, he couldn't. Yes, he said quietly. I'll do it. Dorothy smiled. You have no idea what you've just agreed to. She was right. He didn't. The story broke before Marcus even clocked out. Bro, you need to see this, Trevor said, thrusting his phone toward him. On the screen, Avalon Society Watch. Billionaire Iris Dorothy Williams in public showdown. Family questions. Mental state as she bonds with cafe waiter. Below it, a photo, grainy but unmistakable, showed Dorothy at table 9, Marcus leaning in mid-laugh. The caption read, Sources say Mrs. Williams's new friendship is cause for concern among family insiders. Marcus stared. They make it sound like I'm conning her. Man, you're trending, Trevor said, grinning. Waitergate. Janine rushed in. It's worse on X. People think you're after her money. Marcus opened his phone. Tweets everywhere. Strangers debating his intentions, his race, his morality. Some defended him. Others dissected his face like forensic evidence. He felt the floor tilt. By the time Chef Henri appeared, the world had already labeled him opportunist, gold digger, hero, fraud. Laurent wants you, Henri said quietly. Laurent's office felt smaller now, like the walls were closing in. This is exactly what I warned you about, Laurent began, voice cold. Your behavior has drawn attention to this establishment. Our clients come here for privacy, not headlines. I didn't ask for any of this, Marcus said. No, but you encouraged it. You blurred the line between staff and client. Now we are a circus. I was being kind, Marcus said, his voice rising. She's a lonely old woman. We talk. That's all. Laurent leaned forward. Has she offered you money? Marcus froze. What? It's a simple question. She hasn't offered me anything. Laurent sighed. You're naive if you think this ends cleanly. If you testify for her, you drag this cafe into the mud. So here is your choice. The job or the woman. The air went still. Marcus stared at him. You can't be serious. I'm protecting our reputation. You should protect your own. Marcus stood. You care about reputation, I care about what's right. Then you've made your decision, Laurent said. Return your apron. Outside, the sunlight hit him like a slap. Within 8 hours, he'd lost his job, his anonymity, and probably his peace of mind. His phone buzzed. His sister, Kendra. Marcus, you're on CNN. He rubbed his eyes. That's not a sentence I ever wanted to hear. They're saying it's about class and race, and honestly, I stopped understanding when a lady started saying socio-economic parasitism. Are you okay? I'm fine. Just don't read anything online. Too late, but I know you. You wouldn't hurt that woman. Thanks, kid. She hesitated. You're still my hero, you know. Marcus smiled weakly. Don't tell Mom that. Too late. Another call came in. Mom. He let it ring. He didn't have the energy for worry right now. Then a new text appeared from an unknown number. Patricia Holt, Dorothy's attorney. We need to talk. 4 p.m. Williams Tower. 73rd floor. The Williams Tower loomed over the skyline like a monument to ego, all glass and steel and silence. Marcus felt small walking in with his thrift store jacket and public transport smell. Security checked his name. 73rd floor, the guard said. She's expecting you. The elevator ride was a slow rise through another world, floor after floor of wealth and air conditioning. When the doors opened, a woman with sharp eyes and sharper posture was waiting. Mr. Kennedy, Patricia Holt. Am I in trouble? That depends. Do you intend to keep helping Mrs. Williams? Yes. Then yes, you're in trouble. She turned and led him down a hallway lined with expensive art. Before we start, know this. Dorothy's family will destroy your reputation to protect their money. They'll dig into your past, your family, your social media, your bank records. You'll be their scapegoat. Marcus swallowed. Sounds fun. Patricia glanced back. I like your sarcasm. It'll make cross-examination interesting. They entered a room that looked more like a library than an office. Walls of books, fire in the hearth, and Dorothy sitting by the window wrapped in a blanket. Marcus, she said softly, you came. Of course I came. I heard you lost your job. I'm so sorry. Don't be. I chose this. Dorothy's smile trembled. You shouldn't have to pay for being decent. Patricia pulled up a chair. Let's be practical. We're preparing for a competency hearing. The family claims she's unfit to manage her estate. We'll prove otherwise. You're our key witness. Why me? You've seen her daily. You can attest to her clarity, her reasoning, her memory. That's what matters. Marcus nodded slowly. She's sharp. Sometimes too sharp. Flattery, Dorothy murmured. Patricia continued. Her nephew, Charles, controls the family board. He and Robert, her late husband's partner, want the company. If they win, Dorothy loses control of everything. They'll institutionalize her, liquidate assets, and lock her away somewhere discreet. Marcus stared at Dorothy. They'd really do that? They already tried, she said quietly. Now they're just making it legal. Patricia's tone softened slightly. If you're certain about testifying, we start tomorrow. I'll prep you twice a week until the hearing. You'll learn how to handle their questions. What kind of questions? Your finances, motives, maybe your race. They'll paint you as a manipulator or fool. You'll need to stay composed. Marcus took a deep breath. I can handle it. Good, Patricia said, because once you step into this, there's no going back. Dorothy reached for his hand. You could still walk away. I wouldn't blame you. He shook his head. I'm not leaving you to fight them alone. Dorothy's eyes glistened. George used to say the best people are the ones who help when they have nothing to gain. Patricia stood. Then it's settled. We fight. Hours later, Marcus left the tower dizzy with everything he'd heard. Patricia's words echoed in his head. They'll destroy you. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Charles Whitmore here. My aunt isn't who she says she is. Call me. I'll prove it. Another message arrived seconds later. Dorothy. Whatever they offer, whatever they promise, remember, vultures always circle the dying. Don't let them convince you it's mercy. Marcus deleted Charles's message. Outside, the night city pulsed with light and noise. For the first time, Marcus didn't feel invisible. He felt seen and exposed. 3 weeks until the hearing. 3 weeks to prove that kindness wasn't a crime. He boarded the bus home, staring out at the glowing skyline that now belonged to his friend's enemies. Somewhere between fear and conviction, Marcus Kennedy smiled. He was in the fight now, and he wasn't backing out. Marcus woke to the sound of chaos, not from outside, but from his phone. 300 new notifications. He rubbed his eyes, scrolling through headlines that read like satire. Billionaire's waiter confidant speaks out. Ah, Waitergate divides the internet. Kindness or conspiracy? He dropped the phone on his chest and sighed. Fame without fortune was just stress with better lighting. On X, people were arguing about him like he was a symbol instead of a person. Some called him a hero, others called him a hustler. A few wrote think pieces about race and class as if they'd studied his life for years. He closed the app. Patricia's voice echoed in his mind. Don't read the comments. By 6:45 a.m., he was outside Café Aurelius, staring through the glass doors like a ghost visiting his old life. The cafe was closed. He didn't belong there anymore. Then the door creaked open. Chef Henri stood there, holding a towel like a weapon. You look like a man contemplating bad decisions, he said. Come in. Chef, I'm not staff anymore. Then be a guest. Dorothy would haunt me if I let you starve on the sidewalk. Marcus stepped inside. The cafe smelled the same. Coffee, bread, quiet tension. He sat at table 9, Dorothy's table. Sit, Henri said. Eat. Today, you are my customer. Thanks. Chef? Henri smirked. Do not thank me. I am doing this for drama. Laurent will faint when he sees you. At 7:02 sharp, the door chimed. Dorothy entered. The same maroon hat, the same stubborn grace, her raven cane glinting under the light. She looked smaller, slower. Well, she said, lowering herself into the chair, if it isn't my favorite unemployed revolutionary. Marcus smiled. You're in a good mood. Only because I woke up still breathing. Anything beyond that is a luxury. Henri brought her toast and Marcus's breakfast, a full plate that looked like art. Dorothy lifted her tea. So, how does it feel being infamous? Surreal. My face is trending. I didn't even know I had a face people cared about. Welcome to the circus, darling. The tickets are free, but dignity costs extra. She sipped her tea, then her tone shifted. There's something I need to tell you. The real reason my family is after me. Marcus's fork froze midair. I'm listening. They're not just greedy, she said quietly. They're guilty. I discovered they've been embezzling money from the foundation. Millions. Maybe tens of millions, hidden through fake subsidiaries and offshore accounts. Marcus blinked. They've been stealing from you? From me, from George's legacy, from the charities we fund. I hired a forensic accountant. The evidence is solid. But before I could act, they found out. And now they're trying to get you declared incompetent. Exactly. If they win, they control the estate and bury the evidence with me. Marcus leaned forward. Dorothy, that's dangerous. I'm aware, which is why I've made arrangements. Patricia has the documents. If anything happens to me, she sends everything to the FBI and the press. Marcus swallowed hard. Anything happens to you, meaning? Meaning I'm old, rich, and inconvenient. The trifecta for suspicious accidents. He sat back, processing. You should have told me sooner. I wanted to give you a way out. Ignorance is safer. But now that you're involved, you deserve the truth. Marcus met her eyes. I'm not walking away. You don't owe me this, Marcus. Maybe not, but I owe it to the person who treated me like I mattered. Dorothy studied him for a long moment, then nodded. You remind me of my husband. Too stubborn for your own good. Was he brave or foolish? Both, she said, smiling faintly. Like you. They ate in silence for a while. Outside, the city came alive. Joggers, cars, people rushing toward their smaller battles. Inside, the air felt heavy with something unspoken. Dorothy set down her cup. When I die, they'll rewrite history to make themselves the heroes. But not yet. Not while I still have a voice. Marcus nodded. Then let's make sure they hear it. Dorothy smiled, tired but proud. If I had a son, I'd want him to sound exactly like that. Careful, Marcus said. You'll ruin my tough guy image. She laughed softly, and for a second, she didn't look 87. She looked alive. By the time he left the cafe, the black sedan was gone. The street felt strangely calm. Too calm. His phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. Mr. Kennedy, this is Detective Ramos. We need to discuss Mrs. Williams's security. It's urgent. Marcus stared at the message, his pulse quickening. He didn't know it yet, but breakfast that morning had marked a shift. The war over Dorothy Williams's fortune was no longer just legal. It was about to get personal. By noon, Marcus was sitting in a police precinct that smelled like old coffee and cynicism. Detective Ramos wasn't what he'd expected. Not a grizzled veteran, but a clean-cut man in his 30s with sharp eyes and the calm of someone who'd seen everything twice. "You're Marcus Kennedy," Ramos said, flipping through a file. "The waiter." Marcus smirked. "Apparently that's my official title now." Ramos leaned back. "Mrs. Williams asked us to keep an eye on her. Said her family's been making threats. You've been around her. You seen anything suspicious?" "Just the usual," Marcus said. "Lawyers with smiles sharper than knives. A black sedan parked outside the cafe all week." Ramos scribbled something down. "That sedan. License plates registered to a holding company. Guess who owns it?" "Her family." "Bingo." Ramos tapped the file. "Mrs. Williams might be paranoid, but paranoia doesn't mean she's wrong. You need to be careful too." "Me?" "Yeah, you. You're a problem for them now. The good kind of problem." Later that day, Marcus met Patricia at the firm's downtown office. She looked up from her laptop as he walked in. "You look like someone who's been warned by law enforcement," she said dryly. "I have." "Good. Saves me the trouble. They're escalating, Marcus. Charles hired a private investigator. We think they're digging into your past." Marcus sighed. "Let me guess. They'll find student loans, overdue bills, and a sister applying to Harvard." "Exactly. They'll weaponize your normal life against you. They'll say you're desperate for money. Then I'll tell the truth." Patricia shut her laptop. "Truth doesn't matter in court if the narrative is stronger. That's why we need to control it." "Meaning what?" "Meaning tomorrow we start prepping for the hearing like it's war." Because it is. By the end of the week, Marcus's life had turned into legal boot camp. Patricia drilled him on courtroom etiquette, possible traps, emotional control. What do you do if opposing counsel implies you're lying? Stay calm. What if they suggest Mrs. Williams paid you off? I remind them my bank account says otherwise. What if they twist your words? Untwist them. Patricia actually smiled. Good answer. He practiced until his voice felt rehearsed and his nerves burned out. Still, every time he pictured the courtroom, his stomach tightened. At night, he called Dorothy. "How are you holding up?" he asked. "Still breathing. I've decided that counts as victory." "You shouldn't joke about that. I've earned the right." Her tone softened. "And you? How's the world treating you?" "Like I stole it." Dorothy chuckled. "The world always resents the decent ones. You remind me that not all kindness is extinct." There was silence. Then she said, "You know, George used to say integrity doesn't make life easier, just worth living." "Sounds like something he'd say," Marcus replied. "How would you know?" "Because you quote him every other day." She laughed, and it was the sound of warmth in a cold world. The next morning, Marcus stepped off the bus and immediately noticed the black sedan again. Same model, same tint, same tension crawling up his spine. He crossed the street, heading toward the cafe. The car pulled away slowly, deliberate, like a warning. Inside, Dorothy was already seated, sipping tea. "You saw it too," she said without looking up. "Yeah, they're not even trying to hide anymore. They want you nervous." "It's working," Marcus admitted. Dorothy set down her cup. "Fear keeps you sharp, but don't let it paralyze you. Charles and Robert are counting on intimidation. It's what bullies do best." "Then what do? We outsmart them." "Patricia's filing an injunction to delay their control attempt until after the hearing. That gives us time." Marcus frowned. "Time for what?" "To make sure they hang themselves with their own greed." That evening, Patricia called. "We've got movement. Charles's lawyers just filed a motion claiming Dorothy made a large, unexplained bank transfer to you." Marcus blinked. "That's impossible. I don't have a cent from her." "I know. But perception, remember? They'll spin it as evidence of manipulation. I've already requested proof. The transfer doesn't exist." "So they're fabricating evidence? Or setting you up?" "Either way, be cautious. Don't sign anything. Don't open strange emails. Don't talk to reporters." Marcus paced his apartment. "They're really scared of losing, aren't they? They're scared of exposure. If Dorothy's evidence goes public, half the board ends up indicted. They'd rather destroy you than risk that. Then they're gonna have to try harder." Patricia's voice softened. You sound like her. He smiled faintly. I take that as a compliment. A few days later, he found an envelope taped to his apartment door. No return address. Inside was a single printed photo, him and Dorothy laughing at the cafe, with the words, "Stay out of it," scrawled across in red marker. He stared at it for a long time, heartbeat pounding. Then he tore it in half. That night, he called Dorothy again. They're trying to scare me, he said. Good, she replied calmly. That means they're worried. He couldn't help but laugh. You're impossible. Unkillable, I prefer. Her voice softened. You're brave, Marcus. Braver than you should have to be. Just promise me something. Anything? When this is over, no matter how it ends, live your life. Don't let my mess define it. He hesitated. You're not a mess. You're the first person who made me feel like I could do something that mattered. Dorothy smiled through the phone. Then maybe that's what all this was for. 2 weeks until the hearing. 2 weeks until the world decided who was sane and who was dangerous. Marcus stood by his window, city lights flickering below, and realized something. He wasn't just defending Dorothy anymore. He was fighting for every person who'd ever been told they didn't belong at the table. And he wasn't afraid anymore. Not of them. Not of losing. Not of being seen. The hearing was 10 days away, and the city had already turned it into entertainment. News channels looped clips of Dorothy leaving her building, calling it the fall of a legend. Talk shows debated her sanity like it was a sport. Some called her brave, others delusional. Everyone had an opinion. Marcus tried tuning it out. He spent his days with Patricia, rehearsing his testimony, and his nights on buses that rattled through streets he couldn't afford to live on. Each time he looked out the window, the black sedan wasn't far behind. Let's run it again, Patricia said, setting down her coffee. When they ask why you spent so much time with Mrs. Williams, what's your answer? Because she asked for company. Because she treated me like an equal. Because it's not illegal to be kind. Patricia smirked. Good. Don't get defensive. Calm, measured, credible. I'll try. Try harder. They'll come for your tone, your posture, your grammar. You're a symbol now, whether you like it or not. Marcus sighed. I didn't ask to be one. No one does, but you showed up. That's enough. She leaned back. Dorothy trusts you completely, you know. That's rare for her. She's earned the same. Patricia's eyes softened. Just remember, people like Charles don't fight fair. If they can't destroy her case, they'll destroy her witnesses. Marcus nodded slowly. Then let them try. That night, he walked home instead of taking the bus. He needed silence, or something close to it. The city was a blur of lights and noise, too alive to notice one man walking alone. Halfway down 9th Street, he heard footsteps behind him. Slow, deliberate. He glanced back. A man in a dark coat, hands in pockets, face unreadable. Marcus crossed the street. So did the man. He stopped. So did the shadow. Hey, Marcus called out. You lost? The man didn't answer. Marcus turned and started walking faster, cutting through a narrow alley. The man followed. At the end of the alley, a door opened. Chef Henry stepped out with a trash bag. Marcus? The shadow vanished. You look like you saw a ghost, Henry said. Maybe I did. Henri frowned. Careful, boy. Ghosts don't carry guns. The next morning, Marcus showed Patricia the note from before and told her about the alley. She didn't flinch. They're sending warnings, she said. Psychological warfare. You hold steady. I'll report it to security. Dorothy shouldn't be out in public right now. She won't be. I've already arranged private transport for her. From now on, she doesn't go anywhere without protection. Good, because whoever's behind this isn't bluffing. Patricia's tone turned firm, and neither are we. 2 nights later, Marcus got a call from Dorothy, her voice trembling but steady. They broke into my penthouse. Marcus sat up in bed. What? Are you okay? I'm fine. They took some documents. Nothing irreplaceable. Patricia's already locking things down, but it's starting. He clenched his jaw. Do you want me to come over? No, she said firmly. You showing up would only make things worse. They're watching. Then what do you want me to do? Be ready. When the hearing starts, they'll come after you harder than me. Let them. She paused. Marcus, I'm not afraid of losing my money. I'm afraid of dying before I can expose them. He didn't know what to say. Promise me, she said softly. If I don't make it to that courtroom, you'll still tell the truth. He closed his eyes. You're going to make it. Promise me. I promise. 2 days later, Marcus arrived at the law firm for another prep session. But Patricia was on the phone, pale, her voice sharp. What happened? He asked. She hung up slowly. Dorothy collapsed this morning. They rushed her to St. Catherine's. Marcus felt his chest tighten. Is she? She's alive. Stable for now. Doctors think it's her heart. He grabbed his coat. I'm going there. Patricia didn't stop him. The hospital smelled like bleach and grief. Marcus found her room after convincing 3 nurses and a security guard. Dorothy lay in bed, pale but awake, tubes snaking from her arms. Her eyes flicked open when she heard him. You didn't listen, she whispered. You scared the hell out of me. I scare everyone eventually. He pulled a chair close. You're going to be fine. Don't lie to me. My body's been sending eviction notices for years. She smiled faintly. But I'll hold out. I'm too stubborn to die before I win. He laughed quietly. That's the spirit. She looked at him, serious now. Patricia has the evidence. If anything happens to me, she knows what to do. But you need to protect yourself. They won't stop. I'm not backing off. I know. Her eyes softened. That's why I'm proud of you. Her hand found his. The world will always tell you that worth is inherited. Don't believe it. You earn it by how you stand when you have nothing. Marcus blinked back tears. Rest. We'll finish this together. She closed her eyes, still holding his hand. Together then. As he left the hospital, his phone buzzed again. A news alert this time. Breaking. Dorothy Williams hospitalized amid ongoing legal battle. Family expresses concern over influence of former waiter. Marcus stared at the headline, jaw tight. They'd already started rewriting the story. But not for long. He looked up at the city skyline, at the tower that bore Dorothy's name, and made himself a promise. He wouldn't let her legacy die surrounded by lies. The hospital room was too quiet. Machines hummed softly beside Dorothy's bed. The rhythmic beat of her heart monitored the only proof she was still fighting. The woman who once commanded boardrooms and headlines now looked impossibly small. A queen in exile, surrounded by white walls. Marcus sat in the chair by her side, running on caffeine and fury. It had been 3 days since the collapse. The doctors said heart strain. Patricia called it stress. Marcus called it sabotage. No one said it out loud, but they all knew the timing wasn't coincidence. He checked his phone again. Another news headline blinked across the screen. Family expresses concern as billionaire widow's health declines. Sources cite waiter's undue influence. He nearly threw the phone against the wall. They were rewriting her story in real time, turning compassion into corruption. A knock at the door broke his thoughts. Patricia stepped in, trench coat over her suit, exhaustion in her eyes. She's stable, she said softly. But the family's filed for an emergency hearing to seize control of her estate before she's discharged. They're claiming she's medically unfit to testify. Marcus shot up. They can't do that. She's not even unconscious. They can try, Patricia said grimly. And they will. The judge approved a preliminary review for tomorrow morning. So they're rushing the process? Exactly. If they win this motion, Dorothy loses everything before she ever gets to court. And once they have control, the case dies. No hearing, no justice. Marcus's jaw tightened. Then we stop them. Patricia gave a tired smile. That's the spirit. I already filed for a temporary stay, but it won't hold without testimony. She has to appear, even if it's by video. She's barely strong enough to sit up. Then she'll do it lying down, Patricia said. We don't have a choice. That night, Marcus stayed by Dorothy's bedside. She stirred just before midnight, eyes fluttering open. You look terrible, she rasped. So do you, he said gently. We're a pair. She smiled faintly. Let me guess. Charles is circling. They're pushing for an emergency hearing tomorrow. Her expression didn't change. Predictable. Patricia's filing to stall. But we'll need your voice. Dorothy's eyes found his. Then I'll speak. He leaned forward. You don't have to push yourself. Marcus, I've spent 87 years watching men in suits talk over me. Tomorrow, I talk back. He couldn't argue with that. Morning came gray and cold. Patricia arrived early, laptop in hand, her voice clipped and focused. We're doing this by remote session, hospital's setting up a video link to the courthouse. I'll handle the arguments. Dorothy just needs to appear lucid. Lucid? Marcus muttered. She's sharper than all of them combined. True, Patricia said, but appearances matter more than truth. 2 technicians rolled in a portable camera setup. The hospital room transformed into an impromptu courtroom. Patricia stood to one side, checking sound and lighting as if directing a broadcast. At 9:00 a.m., the screen came alive. 6 small squares showing the courtroom, the judge, Charles Whitmore, his lawyers, and a few family members wearing expressions of rehearsed concern. Dorothy's voice, though raspy, carried through clearly. Good morning, Your Honor. I apologize for not dying sooner. It would have made things easier for my family. Patricia almost smiled. The judge did not. Mrs. Williams, he said carefully, this is an emergency review regarding your estate. Your family believes you are no longer fit to manage your financial affairs. Dorothy's eyes narrowed. My family believes whatever profits them. Charles leaned forward in his square on the screen, his tone oozing false sympathy. Aunt Dorothy, this isn't about money. We're worried about you. You've been unwell. You've made questionable choices lately. Like having breakfast? She shot back. Charles sighed dramatically. Like befriending a waiter and confiding in him about private matters. You've been manipulated, Aunt. We're just trying to protect you. Marcus clenched his fists off screen. Patricia touched his arm. Stay calm. Dorothy's tone dropped to ice. You're not protecting me, Charles. You're protecting your offshore accounts. The courtroom murmured. The judge raised a hand. Mrs. Williams, please. Your Honor? Patricia interjected smoothly. The family's motion is based on conjecture and slander. There's no medical evidence of incompetence. My client is coherent, informed, and fully aware of her estate. Charles's lawyer, a man with the charisma of wet cardboard, stood. Your Honor, if I may, Mrs. Barrow, Williams was hospitalized for cardiac distress. There are concerns she's being influenced by outside parties for personal gain. Outside parties? Patricia asked. You mean the man who's been feeding her breakfast? Snickers rippled through the courtroom. The lawyer adjusted his tie. Mr. Kennedy's relationship with my client is unusual. There are financial irregularities. There are none, Patricia snapped. Produce evidence or retract. The judge cut in. Enough. I've reviewed the preliminary filings. The court will not rule on competence today. However, I will schedule a full hearing within 48 hours. Dorothy lifted her chin. That's all I need, Your Honor. 2 days. After that, they can drag my corpse through the lobby if they want. Even the judge cracked a smile. The feed ended. The technicians began packing up. Patricia exhaled slowly, tension melting from her shoulders. You just bought us 48 hours, Marcus said quietly. Then we use them well, Patricia replied. Dorothy smiled faintly. Remind me to send that judge a fruit basket, assuming I still own fruit. By afternoon, the hospital room was busier than a newsroom. Patricia set up her laptop at the foot of the bed, files open, notes everywhere. Marcus stood by the window, scanning the street for the black sedan. It was there again. Same spot. He took a photo through the blinds. They're watching. Patricia didn't even look up. Good. Let them see we're working. Marcus frowned. You sound too calm about this. Because panic wastes time, she said. I've been through corporate wars nastier than this. Money makes people stupid. Predictable, too. Predictable how? They'll make one last move before the hearing. Something dramatic. Something they think will scare us off. Then we brace for it. Exactly. At 5 p.m., Marcus went down to the hospital cafeteria for coffee. The place was half empty, the air thick with the smell of disinfectant and overcooked fries. He stood in line, scrolling his phone, until a man brushed past him, too close. The coffee cup almost slipped from his hand. The man didn't apologize, just muttered, "You're in over your head," and kept walking. Marcus spun around, but the man disappeared through the exit. He ran after him, pushing through the doors, only to find the parking lot empty except for a black sedan pulling away fast. He pulled out his phone, dialing Patricia. "Someone just threatened me at the hospital," he said. Her voice was calm. "They're trying to rattle you. Did you get a face?" "No, just a voice." "Then stay inside. Security's on alert. I'll notify Ramos." He hesitated. "You think they'd actually—" "Yes," she said bluntly. "They would." That night, the rain came down hard. Marcus stayed in Dorothy's room, watching her sleep. The sound of the storm outside mixed with the hum of the monitors. Patricia had gone home to rest. Even she needed hours off the battlefield. At 11:47 p.m., Marcus's phone buzzed. An email notification. Subject: Urgent. Video proof of Williams' family fraud from unknown sender. He hesitated, then opened it. A video attachment. The thumbnail showed Charles in what looked like a boardroom. He pressed play. A shaky hidden camera view. Charles's voice filled the small room. "We can't let her testify. If she shows that evidence, we're done. Make it look like she's losing her mind. Leak the footage. Pay whoever you need." Marcus froze. The video cut off abruptly. No metadata, no sender signature. He forwarded it to Patricia with one line. This could blow the case open. Seconds later, his phone rang. Patricia's voice was sharp. "Where did you get this?" "Anonymous email. Looks legit." "Don't share it. Not yet. If it's real, it's dynamite. If it's fake, it's a trap." "You think they'd plant it?" "I think they'd do anything to discredit us. We verify it in the morning." Marcus nodded, heart still racing. "If it's real, this ends them." "If it's real," she said softly, "it makes you a target." He barely slept. The next morning, Ramos met them at the hospital with 2 officers and a forensic tech. The detective looked grim. "We traced the email server," Ramos said. "Encrypted relay through 3 countries, but the footage checks out. Timestamps match Charles's meeting schedule from last week." "So it's real," Patricia said. "Real enough to scare powerful people. You planning to use it?" "Yes," Patricia said. "At the hearing tomorrow." Ramos sighed. "Then watch your backs. If they know you have this, they won't play nice." Marcus glanced at Dorothy, who was awake now listening. "Well," she said, voice thin but fierce. "It seems we've finally drawn blood." Patricia smiled grimly. "We'll submit it under seal first thing. That video could end the Whitmore dynasty." "Good," Dorothy said. "It's been a long dynasty of idiots." Even Ramos chuckled. That night, Dorothy asked Marcus to open the blinds. Rain streaked the window again, city lights glowing in the distance. "Funny," she said quietly. "I spent my whole life building towers that blocked the view. And now, all I want is to see the streetlights." Marcus sat beside her. "You'll see them plenty after we win." She smiled faintly. "You have a dangerous habit of believing in happy endings. Someone has to." She reached for his hand. "You remind me there's still good in the world. Don't lose that. Not for me, not for anyone." He nodded, squeezing her hand gently. Outside, lightning flashed. And for a split second, he saw the reflection of a figure standing by the window of a building across the street, watching. By the time he blinked, it was gone. The next day, they'd face the final hearing. Dorothy against her family. Marcus against the world's assumptions. And for the first time since this began, Marcus didn't feel like a waiter serving the powerful. He felt like a man holding the truth, and ready to use it. The morning of the hearing arrived like a storm with no thunder. Quiet, heavy, and electric. Marcus stood in front of the courthouse steps, raincoat collar up, briefcase in hand. He'd been there since dawn, unable to sleep, replaying every word Patricia had drilled into him. Stay calm. Stay credible. Tell the truth. Always the truth. Behind him, the city hummed. News vans, reporters, cameras, all waiting to turn justice into spectacle. Waitergate was trending again. They called him the man who might bring down a dynasty. Patricia joined him, coffee in one hand, umbrella in the other. "You ready?" "As I'll ever be." "Good. Because whatever happens in there, remember, this isn't just about her. It's about you, proving that decency isn't weakness." He nodded. eyes fixed on the courthouse doors. Let's end this. Inside, the courtroom felt colder than the weather outside. The air carried that sterile blend of fear and formality that only legal buildings could master. Dorothy sat near the front, wrapped in a deep blue coat, a blanket over her knees. The oxygen tube running to her nose didn't dull the steel in her gaze. She looked fragile, yes, but not broken. More like glass. Beautiful, sharp, and dangerous to handle carelessly. When Marcus entered, she smiled faintly. "You clean up well," she whispered. "You look like you could still run this place." "Don't tempt me." Patricia placed a reassuring hand on Marcus's shoulder. "Let me do the heavy lifting. You just be honest when it's your turn." Charles Whitmore sat across the aisle, immaculate as ever, jaw tight, surrounded by his lawyers and PR team. He didn't look at Dorothy. He didn't need to. His smug composure said everything. The judge entered. Everyone rose. Case 43B, the clerk read. Williams versus Whitmore et al. Petition for guardianship and control of estate. Patricia whispered, "Showtime." The opening statements were a duel in slow motion. Charles's lawyer, Weston, spoke first, his tone soaked in false civility. "Your Honor, this case isn't about greed. It's about concern. Mrs. Williams, once a respected figure in business, has unfortunately shown signs of mental decline, paranoia, erratic generosity, questionable associations. Our goal is to protect her from manipulation by individuals seeking personal benefit." He turned deliberately toward Marcus. Individuals who, by all appearances, have already begun exploiting her trust. Marcus felt his jaw tighten, but Patricia's subtle shake of the head stopped him. Then it was her turn. "Your Honor," Patricia began, voice crisp, controlled. "The only thing declining here is decency. My client is not incompetent. She's inconvenient. The only thing these men want to protect is their access to her wealth. And as for Mr. Kennedy..." She paused, turning toward the jury. "His only crime is kindness." Dorothy smiled faintly, oxygen tube trembling as she breathed. The testimonies began. The family paraded witnesses, doctors on their payroll, staff members from the estate, even a financial advisor who swore Dorothy had once forgotten a meeting. Weston turned each detail into a weapon, painting her as frail, confused, unstable. Then it was Marcus's turn. Patricia stood. "The defense calls Marcus Kennedy." He walked to the stand, palms slick, heartbeat steady only in theory. The bailiff swore him in, and suddenly every camera, every eye, was on him. Patricia smiled softly. "Mr. Kennedy, please tell the court how you met Mrs. Williams." "At Cafe Aurelius. She was a regular. Came in every morning, ordered tea and toast. I served her for months before we ever had a real conversation." "And what was that conversation about?" Marcus smiled faintly. "Toast. She said I was the first person who asked how she liked it cut." A few chuckles rippled through the courtroom. Even the judge smiled. Patricia nodded. "And what did those conversations become?" "They became friendship. I didn't know who she was at first. She didn't act like someone rich or famous. She just talked. About her husband. About books. About life. She listened, too. She remembered details about my sister's exams. She made me feel seen." Patricia stepped closer. "Did Mrs. Williams ever offer you money?" "No." "Did she ever ask you for anything illegal, improper, or manipulative?" "Never." "Then why stay? Why risk your job? Your reputation?" Marcus exhaled. "Because she was good. Because when everyone treated her like a relic or a transaction, I saw a person. And maybe she reminded me that the world still has people worth standing up for." The silence that followed was thick. Even Weston looked momentarily unsure. Patricia nodded. "No further questions." Weston rose. "Mr. Kennedy," he began, voice dripping with mock sympathy. "You're a waiter, correct?" "Former waiter." "Former, right. And your income before meeting Mrs. Amo Williams?" "About $2,200 a month." "So when a billionaire starts giving you attention, you don't find that advantageous?" "I found it human." Weston smirked. "Of course. And when she confided in you about family matters, you didn't see that as opportunity?" "No." "Come now, Mr. Kennedy. You expect this court to believe you formed a purely platonic bond with a woman who could change your life financially? Marcus's voice hardened. Yes, because not everyone calculates kindness in dollars. Weston's smirk faltered. You've received threats recently, haven't you? Yes. And you believe they came from Mrs. Williams's family? I know they did. Any proof? Marcus hesitated, then looked toward Patricia, who gave a small nod. Yes, he said. A video. The room buzzed. Weston frowned. What video? Patricia stood. Your Honor, defense would like to submit Exhibit E, verified footage recorded from the plaintiff's own office, provided by an anonymous whistleblower. Charles shifted in his seat. Objection. Overruled, the judge said. Play it. The lights dimmed slightly. The screen flickered to life. Charles appeared, seated in a boardroom, voice clear. We can't let her testify. If she shows that evidence, we're done. Make it look like she's losing her mind. Leak the footage. Pay whoever you need. The silence afterward was suffocating. The judge's expression hardened. Weston looked like he'd swallowed glass. Charles's jaw clenched, his PR manager whispering furiously at his side. Patricia spoke calmly. That, Your Honor, is not the voice of concern. That's conspiracy. When the recess was called, the courtroom exploded, reporters shouting, cameras flashing. Dorothy leaned back in her chair, eyes closed, a faint smile on her lips. Marcus knelt beside her. You did it, she whispered. We did it. She laughed softly, the sound thin but alive. You're terrible at following orders, you know. Good thing you like rebels. Always have. Patricia joined them, her phone buzzing nonstop. The judge called an emergency session for tomorrow morning. He's fast-tracking the verdict. That video changes everything. Charles stormed past them, flanked by lawyers. For the first time, he looked afraid. That evening, back at the firm, Patricia poured 2 glasses of scotch. To moral chaos and unexpected heroes, she said. Marcus chuckled, taking a sip. You ever get used to this? No, but the winning helps. Think we'll win tomorrow? Patricia looked out the window. We already did. Now it's about how much they lose. He nodded, then asked quietly, what happens if they come after me again? They won't. Not after that video. Ramos is putting Charles under watch. He exhaled. Good. I'm tired of looking over my shoulder. She glanced at him. You know, you could walk away from all this after tomorrow. Nobody would blame you. I know, he said. But I'm not sure I can. Why? He smiled faintly. Because for once, doing the right thing feels bigger than survival. The next morning came cold and clear. The final session was short. Patricia presented closing arguments with surgical precision. Weston's defense was a drowning man clutching paperwork. Then Dorothy stood, slowly but steadily, cane in hand, oxygen tube still trailing behind her. Your Honor, she said softly, for decades I've watched men like Charles use money as a shield against consequence. But money doesn't buy morality. It doesn't buy integrity. It doesn't buy me. Her voice grew stronger. I may be old, but I'm not lost. And if kindness is madness, then I plead guilty with joy. The judge nodded slowly. Mrs. Williams, thank you. The court will reconvene for verdict this afternoon. Outside, cameras swarmed them, microphones thrust forward. Mrs. Williams, do you believe your family tried to harm you? She paused, then looked directly into the cameras. I believe greed is a disease, and I hope my family seeks treatment. The crowd erupted. Patricia whispered, You just gave the soundbite of the year. Dorothy smiled. Good. Let them quote it at my funeral. Marcus shook his head. You're unbelievable. I try. By noon, they returned to the courthouse for the verdict. The tension in the room was heavy enough to taste. The judge's voice was steady. After reviewing testimony, medical records, and newly submitted evidence, the court finds no basis to declare Mrs. Williams incompetent. Furthermore, an independent investigation into the Whitmore Group's finances is hereby ordered. Charles's face drained of color. Patricia grinned. Marcus exhaled for what felt like the first time in months. Dorothy simply closed her eyes and whispered, George, we did it. Reporters erupted as the gavel fell. It was over. Outside the courthouse, cameras flashed like fireworks. Marcus tried to shield Dorothy as they made their way to the car, but she stopped on the steps, turning to face the crowd. "Thank you," she said. "For once, the truth made the news." Then she looked at Marcus. "You were my miracle, you know." "Don't say that." "It's true. The universe sent me a waiter with more courage than my entire bloodline." He smiled. "I just brought the toast." "And the faith," she said. "Don't lose that. The world needs it." That night, Marcus sat by her bedside again, not in a hospital, but at her penthouse, the same view she once called lonely. Now it was peaceful. "You can rest now," he said quietly. "I already am," she murmured. "The fight's done. Let the world gossip. I'm going to dream." She fell asleep with a smile. Marcus stood by the window, watching the city lights shimmer against the rain-streaked glass. For the first time, he wasn't just surviving. He'd found purpose. Inconvenient, costly, unglamorous purpose, but purpose nonetheless. And as lightning cracked in the distance, illuminating the skyline, Marcus Kennedy knew this wasn't the end of the story. It was just the start of his own. The morning after the verdict felt unreal. Marcus woke to the sound of quiet. No reporters outside, no phone buzzing with threats, no chaos waiting for him. For the first time in months, silence didn't feel dangerous. It felt earned. He made coffee and stood by his window, staring at the city skyline Dorothy had once owned half of. The rain had stopped. The world, at least for a moment, had paused to breathe. His phone buzzed. "Patricia. Dorothy wants to see you," she said. "She's better this morning, a little weak, but she insists. I'll be there in 30 minutes. Marcus," Patricia added softly. "She's proud of you. So am I." He smiled. "Let's not get sentimental, counselor." "Too late," she said, and hung up. The penthouse felt different this time, lighter somehow. The tension that used to hang in the air like static had lifted. The security guards at the door greeted him by name now. When he stepped into the living room, Dorothy was by the window in a wheelchair, bathed in sunlight, the city spread out below her like a conquered kingdom. "Well," she said, smiling, "if it isn't the man who made me famous again." Marcus grinned. "You did that yourself. I just held the toast." "Modesty is charming but overrated," she said, waving him closer. "Sit. I've been thinking." "That sounds dangerous." "It is." She studied him for a long moment. "You know, I've had a lot of people in my life. Advisors, partners, investors, but very few who had nothing to gain from standing beside me. You did. And that changes things. I wasn't trying to change anything. And yet you did." Her eyes softened. "I was terrified, Marcus. Not of losing money, of being forgotten. You made sure I won't be. That matters more than all the towers in this city." He looked out at the skyline. "You built all this. I just showed up." She smiled faintly. "That's the point. Sometimes showing up is the revolution." Patricia arrived an hour later with folders and legal updates. "Morning, warrior queen," she said to Dorothy. "Morning, legal assassin," Dorothy replied. "What's the damage?" Federal investigators froze 3 Whitmore accounts overnight. The FBI's requesting full cooperation. Charles is lawyering up. Robert's fled to Dubai. Dorothy chuckled. "Cowards make terrible fugitives. They always buy first-class tickets." Patricia turned to Marcus. "Your testimony's being cited in every major paper. You might want to stay off social media for a while. You're practically a folk hero." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Folk hero? I just told the truth." "That's rare enough to be newsworthy," Patricia said. Dorothy laughed softly. "Truth is always revolutionary when it's inconvenient." They spent the afternoon talking about what came next. Dorothy was already planning to restructure her foundation. New leadership, transparent governance, scholarships in George's name. She asked Marcus to help consult on the user experience of their donation platform. He blinked. "You want me to design for the foundation? Why not? You have integrity and taste, 2 things our board has been missing for decades." Patricia grinned. "Congratulations, Kennedy. You just got promoted from scandal to strategy." He laughed. "I'll take that." Dorothy's tone softened. "I mean it, Marcus. The world needs people who can build trust, not just wealth. You've shown me that. She paused, eyes glistening faintly. I've been rewriting my will. I'd like to set up a trust in your name. Not as charity, but partnership. You'll oversee the community development branch. Help young people the way you wanted to help your sister. Marcus froze. Dorothy, you don't have to. I know, she interrupted gently. But I want to. Let me do this while I still can. He swallowed hard. You sure you trust me with that? With my money, maybe not. With my legacy, absolutely. That night, the city glittered like glass. Marcus stood on the balcony, watching the traffic move below, tiny lives crossing paths, unaware that a war over kindness had just been won above their heads. Patricia joined him with 2 cups of tea. You know she'll try to work until she drops, right? I figured. She doesn't strike me as a retiree. She's been through hell. You both have. Marcus took a sip of tea. You ever wonder why some people like her find peace so late? Patricia leaned on the railing. Because power keeps people busy, and busy people forget they're lonely. He nodded. I used to think success would fix everything. Now I think it just makes your cage more expensive. She smiled faintly. You're wiser than your pay grade. He looked at her. You ever get tired of fighting for people who can't fight for themselves? Every day, she said. But then I meet someone who reminds me why it matters. They stood in silence for a while. Below, sirens wailed faintly, distant, unthreatening. Dorothy grew weaker over the following weeks, though she refused to admit it. I'm not dying, she said one morning, sipping tea with trembling hands. I'm delegating existence. Marcus smiled sadly. You're impossible. Unkillable, she corrected, the old sparkle returning for a moment. But by the 2nd month, the sparkle dimmed. Her voice grew thinner, her sentences shorter. Still, she kept working, reviewing documents, signing letters, dictating plans for the Foundation's future. She insisted Marcus sit beside her every morning. Routine is how we tell death it can wait, she said. Then one morning, she didn't wake up. The funeral was private. Her choice. No cameras, no grand speeches, just a handful of people she trusted. Patricia, a few old friends from her charity, and Marcus. It was held in the small garden behind her estate, the one she used to call her escape hatch from the world. The air smelled of roses and rain. Patricia read the eulogy. Dorothy Williams believed in legacy, not lineage. She built an empire, and then used it to remind us that power without purpose is poverty. She lived fiercely, and she left on her own terms. Marcus stood at the back, hands clasped, eyes burning but dry. She'd told him not to cry. Tears are currency the dead can't spend, she'd said. When the service ended, Patricia handed him a sealed envelope. She wrote this for you. He hesitated, then opened it. In her unmistakable handwriting, it read, My dear Marcus, if you're reading this, I'm off annoying angels with unsolicited financial advice. Don't mourn me. Finish what we started. The trust is yours now. Use it wisely. Build something that outlives both of us. Remember, the world will always need people who ask how others want their toast cut. Love, Dorothy. He folded the letter carefully, slipping it into his jacket. For a long moment, he stood alone by her headstone, the sunlight filtering through the trees. Goodbye, Dorothy, he said quietly. You changed everything. Months passed. The headlines faded. The scandal dissolved into case studies and documentaries, each one missing the soul of what really happened. Marcus moved into a small office downtown, a space with bad lighting and big dreams. The Williams Kennedy Foundation launched publicly that spring, dedicated to funding education and community programs for underprivileged youth. At the ribbon cutting, Patricia stood beside him, smiling like someone who'd learned to believe again. This would have made her proud, she said. She'd say the banner font's ugly, Marcus replied. They both laughed. After the ceremony, he lingered in the quiet of the new office, staring at Dorothy's framed photo on the wall. Her eyes alive with mischief, the faint smirk that said, I told you so. He whispered, We did it. That evening, Marcus took the bus home, the same route he used to take to Cafe Aurelius. The city outside was familiar but changed, or maybe he was. The cafe was still there, glowing under the streetlights, Out of habit, he got off and walked in. The same smell. Coffee, pastries, faint echoes of laughter. Henry spotted him instantly. Mon Dieu, the prodigal waiter returns. Marcus smiled. Just needed a decent cup of coffee. You want your old table? He nodded toward table 9. Yeah. The view's good there. Henry poured his cup and walked away. Marcus sat in the same seat where everything began, where kindness turned into chaos, where chaos became purpose. He looked at the empty chair across from him and almost saw her there, that maroon hat tilted, Kane leaning by her side. For a moment, he could almost hear her voice. You asked how I wanted my toast cut. That's where it all began. He smiled to himself, raised his cup slightly toward the empty chair. To Dorothy. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe and join this growing family of story lovers from all over the world. Tell me in the comments what part moved you the most and where you're watching from. I always love reading your thoughts. And remember, tomorrow I'll be back with another story, one just as powerful, one you'll feel long after it ends. Until then, take care of yourself and keep believing in kindness. Outside, the rain began again. Gentle, cleansing, endless. And somewhere above the city she built, the woman who refused to be forgotten probably smiled too.